Welcome to the Brian Buffini Show, where we explore the mindsets, motivation, and methodologies of success. Here's your coach, Brian Buffini.
Well, top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Brian Buffini Show, where we have the best intro music in the podcast business. Want to shout out to Brogue Wave and their great song, The Cliffs of Moher, if you want to check that song out. I have a special treat for all of you today. He's been a treat in my life for just a little over 30 years, dear Lord help us. And we've been the best of friends. We've worked side by side. He's been a counselor. He's come alongside. He's a presenter. He's a world-class talent, and he has a very special message for all of you. For those of you who don't know Joe Niego, Joe grew up on the south side of Chicago, one of 8 children. He grew up in a blue-collar family, in a blue-collar community while working blue-collar jobs. And Joe has translated that blue-collar mindset to achieve success in various walks of life. He was a standout basketball player, playing for Lewis University in Illinois, and he played with his 3 brothers. And was a second-round draft choice for the Houston Rockets, so the boy could ball out. After starting his real estate career in 1987, Joe became one of the most successful agents in North America, selling over 2,500 homes. Think about this, the average agent sells 10 homes a year. And so just a huge talent. 18 years ago, I asked Joe to start sharing his insights at events we were holding all over the world, and he's been a fan favorite, a great presenter with a great teaching style. Now, today he's not here to talk about real estate. He's here to talk about a subject that's very personal to him that I believe can have a huge significance for everyone listening. As our country has drifted away from old world principles, sometimes we miss the mark on the most powerful values that can make our lives so much better and successful. Today, Joe is here to talk about the blue-collar mindset. We've been close friends for decades. And Joe, it's a real honor to have you on the show today and talk about a subject we've talked about in privately many times. So welcome to the show.
Well, it's great to be here. It's an honor, Brian.
Well, let's kind of dive right in, right? That's kind of the blue-collar way. And we're both blue-collar boys. Your dad was a mason, a concrete finisher, as well as working for the city of Chicago. So classic blue-collar. He worked 2 jobs. Mom was a homemaker, and my dad's a house painter. My mom was a homemaker. We've laughed over the years that our moms look like twin sisters. Yeah. You grew up in a blue-collar family, blue-collar mindset, and you took that blue-collar mindset and had translated it through many, many different aspects of work and success. And I really want to dive into that. So let's just talk about it right off the bat. Today everyone's got to get a college degree and get a white-collar job. That's kind of the treadmill that's been built, and that treadmill I think can sometimes lead people down the wrong road. So for you, Joe, what does blue-collar actually mean?
Well, it's taken me years to kind of figure this out because fish discover water last. And when you're so embedded in your community and who you are, it takes some time to kind of figure out who you are. So what does blue collar mean? Well, blue collar is it's an expression to describe a type of work. And it's usually manual work, physical work, hard, dirty work. I often say it's work that cannot be faked. It's in its physical building, creating, and developing. So it's people in the trades like the plumber, the electrician, the carpenter, the cement finisher, the painter, the list goes on. And traditionally, people who did this type of work wore durable blue shirts. Think of the Maytag repairman, and those shirts had blue collars. Where on the other hand, white collar workers went into an office and worked at a desk and wore white shirts, hence the term white collar. So it became terms to describe a type of work, and it's embedded in our society. If you look at cities throughout the country, you don't have to look far. You look at Detroit, they're known as a blue collar town. Well, that came from the auto workers, the factory workers, Motor City, Motown. You're quite familiar with that with our recent experience at Peak. Or Pittsburgh, The Pittsburgh Steelers are named after the steel mill workers,
Right.
or the Chicago Union stockyards. At one time the biggest employer in all of the Midwest, let alone the city of Chicago. And as a small kid, I grew up in a neighborhood called Canaryville that was right adjacent to the Chicago Union stockyards. And I would always say, growing up as a kid, you can smell the work coming from the stockyards.
We know Canaryville in Ireland. Canaryville was famous to Irish people because when Irish people, they headed to Boston and they headed to Chicago. When they went to Chicago, they went to work in the stockyards.
Well, it's interesting because my mother's maiden name is Quinn, so she's Irish, and my father is Polish, and the Niego name is Polish. And my grandmother and grandfather traced their roots back to Warsaw, Poland, and both of my grandparents worked in the Chicago stockyards. And it was my grandmother's dream and all the sacrifices that she made that one day my dad would go through college. And my grandmother would tell you this story with tears streaming through her eyes and laughing at the same time years later. But my grandmother said, my dream kind of came true. And I'd say, what do you mean by that, Grandma? She says, your dad went through college on his very first day. He went in the front door and out the back. And he said just college wasn't for him. So my dad wound up entering the ranks of the blue collar world. And my grandmother was disheartened, and she wanted him to go to college and not have to sacrifice. She wanted a life better for him than she was experiencing. But here's interesting, Brian, is like after watching my father over time, my grandmother realized that the school of blue collar work was extremely, extremely valuable, and that a college education was not the only ticket to success. So my dad became a laborer and then worked his way up to be a cement finisher. He eventually started a one-truck cement company. He laid sidewalks and driveways. And then when I was old enough to swing a sledgehammer and useful to him, I joined him and my brothers out on the job site. And here's interesting because it comes full circle. My grandmother was thrilled to see us working with my dad all through grade school, high school, college. And because she knew that her grandkids were getting the best of both worlds. We're going to get our college degree and a blue collar education. She knew it was a winning combination. And so today I sit here with, that's my identity. That's my true identity. I'm from a blue collar family, did blue collar work and grew up in a blue collar community. And I'm proud of it. I really am.
Well, look, I mean, we're singing to the choir here, right? I mean, I grew up in the painting business with my dad. I think the reason our parents had such large families is they knew it was a great way to expand the labor force and not expand the payroll, right?
No doubt. Well, many times we'd eat the family out of the house, growing up. My mom would rather pay you than feed you,
Yeah, right. But that whole blue collar mindset, in my regards, it served us very well. And certainly I've not done blue collar work in decades no more than you have. But that mindset and that grounding has been a change forever. One of the dynamics is blue collar is often referred to that, hey, the educated people go to high school and the less educated people work with their hands. You have this dynamic called a blue collar mindset. And I would love to dive in here because I think this right here is enormously valuable. Many of the people listening to this may work in a white collar job, but might have been raised by a blue collar family member. And maybe they've forgotten some of the principles and values and some of the skills that actually makes you thrive in any collar world or even a no collar world. So maybe we could talk about that.
Well, think about it. I mean, I'm sure there's elements of you that miss those days where you'd physically get out there and work and you'd taste the salt from the sweat and you had a sense of accomplishment, and your dinner and the shower at the end of the day was a whole lot better because of a hard day's work.
Yeah.
And I had great satisfaction. I miss it in many ways. And I realized that I'm not an outlier. I did some recent research on the subject matter, and I discovered that 91% of blue collar workers are proud and satisfied in their work. Now this is interesting. It's double the percentage of white collar workers.
Wow.
85% of blue collar workers say their lives are headed in the right direction, while on the other hand, 70% of white collar workers sought a new job within the last 24 months. So there's something special about blue collar work that we all can learn from. And I found this interesting. You know Mike Rowe, the host
Dirty
of
Jobs,
the Discovery. Yeah. I don't know if you know this about him. He's a very well-educated man. Both of his parents were teachers. He's a professionally trained opera singer. Now, that's as far away from blue collar work as you can get. And when he became a personality, a TV personality, he chose to do Dirty Jobs. He wanted to learn about this. And he came up, he said this after years of doing Dirty Jobs. He said this. He said, the flaw in our country is our insistence on separating blue collar jobs from white collar jobs and encouraging one form of education over another. And I think what he's referring to, Bri, is the other is the blue collar mindset and what you learn from doing blue collar work. So there is a mindset to doing, this blue collar work and what comes as a result of it. And this is what I found. And you can dive in anytime you want. But blue collar work is a way of thinking and an approach to the work. It encompasses a strong work ethic. You've all heard the expression, an honest day's work for an honest day's pay.
Right.
It's the type of work where it's a mindset where you're not afraid to roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, break a sweat. As a matter of fact, a callus on the hand is a badge of honor.
Right. Yeah,
I
used to feel your hands. I mean, when I would go to my dad's job site, we would work every summer on the job site with all his guys, and they'd rub your hands and they go, "Oh, a lot of time in the classroom, boy. Get the sandpaper out." And they'd have you sanding, and by the end of summer, man, you could shred potatoes with your hands,
Yeah, you've talked about it in your painting. The time with your dad and your uncle and the guys on the job, but my dad was similar. As far as the blue collar mindset, we all took pride in our work because our work was a reflection of who we are. And in the concrete business, once the concrete was laid and starting to cure, the finishing touch was a brass stamp. My dad would say, "Go get the stamp," and we would take that brass stamp and we'd make an impression in the hardening concrete, and it would leave the name of the company and the phone number. So, you would often say, "Would you give your name for that?" In our work, we literally put our name on our work.
Right, for all to see on every sidewalk, on every driveway.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the expression. The blue collar mindset is about a job well done and done right.
Right.
It's got to be done right. My dad would always say, if you don't have time to do it right, when are you going to have time to do it over?
And there's just so magical stuff, and it's so devoid in our society today. And I hire people sometimes, and I'm just incredulous. All right, like many people, I experience service. For example, my daughter Anna just got a nice place. We got a bunch of furniture for her. And I walk in, and Beverly said, "Oh, the furniture looks great." So I walk in, all the furniture had been delivered. There's packing peanuts, the popcorn, the styrofoam, it's all over the furniture. There's junk on the floor. The carpets are dirty. They scratched up a piece of concrete outside. There were dresser handles where they left all the soft styrofoam coverings on the handles. I opened each one. I'm cleaning out each one. Like, we finished a paint job. My grandfather had us sweep, clean, vacuum, change the light bulbs. Imagine a painter changing light bulbs and wash the windows to show off the paint job.
Yeah.
And today, I'm just going to be candid. Like, I have no loyalty to that furniture company other than a transaction. I'm about to fill a 6,500 square foot house with no furniture whatsoever. That furniture company is nothing more than competing on price. But if they'd have cleaned the furniture, vacuumed up the deal, take the stuff off the handles, and make it livable right away, which would have it took me about 15 minutes. If they'd have done that, they'd have had a customer for life and a job immediately. And I'm going to say that there is a lacking need. This type of traditional mentorship and apprenticeship is lost. We've had the breakdown of the family, the breakdown of institutions, and kids get to play all summer instead of work some summers. Yeah. And what's happening is they just don't know how to do this stuff. You talked about something, Joe. You said it was a way of thinking. I would love to like more about that. It's a way of thinking, that approach to work. Can you expand on that for us a little bit?
Well, I mean, it's just doing a job right, or getting it done well and doing it right. It's the type of work in the mindset in a way of thinking that requires action and less talk. More action, less talk, right? Because it's progress requires action. Where in other industries, sometimes in the white collar world, you can kind of fake it.
Right.
But I'm sure on the job site with your crew or when I'm in my crew, like you can't fake work. It's got to be there. Here's another interesting factor that I've discovered with the blue collar mindset is there's something about being compensated hourly. You know what that does? It helps you understand the value of money and the appreciation of money. I remember my dad, and I'm sure it happened in the Buffini household where something would, maybe kids were being a little bit wasteful or you didn't eat all the food on your plate. And it's like, my mother would say, your father's worked hard to put food on the table. Or, complaining because some other kids got a new set of shoes and I got shoes that were hand-me-downs and complain. It's like, wait a minute. You understand that. So here's the point I want to make. Like, I really love the blue-collar worker and the blue-collar mindset because I believe physical work brings out special qualities in those that participate in it. It forces you to have the blue-collar mindset. It's the labor and the toil that cultivates the human spirit and grows personal character. And I don't think it's by accident that Jesus himself was a carpenter and the disciples were commercial fishermen. And that's all blue-collar work. So I think it's safe to say blue-collar work is divine.
Very good. One of the things that was a change for me was, being raised in the trades. And then when I first got into real estate, I would find myself, I was in the office all day long and never moved. And I'd come home exhausted. And I thought there was something wrong with me. And I realized when I was doing physical work, I had great time to process and think. And, when you're painting, I mean, you get a lot of time to think and kind of, just work things out. And then when you have a lunch, you get a chance to synergize out with your colleagues. When I was doing white collar work, I would come home mentally exhausted and physically not spent at all. And it took me a long time to realize, like, I need to go work out right now because I didn't move my body all day. There's very few guys working in the trades or gals working in the trades and they get home, I need to work out right now because you're lifting ladders and paint buckets and cement and concrete. And like you say, the food tastes better. And you get this sense of accomplishment. I know one of the things that frustrates so many people, and it might be why the job satisfaction is so high, is that a lot of people, they don't know what they got done in a day.
Yeah.
You come home and you go, I worked all day, I'm tired, I don't know what I got done. And I think one of the things that we can translate from the blue-collar mindset into other types of work is to know a specific amount. Here's what I'm trying to get accomplished today, even if it's a part of a project or a tenth of a project or whatever it is. And then you go, boom, I got that done. It's a bigger project, Well,
I mean, maybe I could share because, coming from the blue-collar world, I mean, it's not all about construction.
Right.
And basketball, I mean, you said, I graduated, I have three, I actually played basketball with my three other brothers. We played in grade school, high school, then again in college. The four of us made out the starting five. The unique aspect is there were four brothers out of the starting five. The fascinating part about that is that we won games. Mm-hmm. We stayed ranked in the top 10 all year long. It became a national news story. The national sports media descended upon Lewis University, Sports Illustrated, the New York Times, USA Today, and the NBC National News with Connie Chung came to campus. And I remember when she asked my coach Chuck Swartz, she said, what do you attribute the reason for this record-breaking winning season here at Lewis University? And the coach said, and I remember watching the interview, he said, it's all about who you recruit. We recruit blue-collar kids from the south side of Chicago. And let me just tell you, those kids show up to work every day or show up to practice every day, and they work hard. Mm-hmm. They're open to coaching and training, very coachable people. And I would ask them to do something. There'd be no excuses. They just get the job done. Mm. And I remember watching that and going, doesn't everyone do that? I mean, isn't that what every team does?
You're like, why is that on the nightly news?
Yeah, why is that newsworthy?
Right.
And I realized at that point, having the blue collar work ethic in a sports arena, it was unique. And I also came to this conclusion, Brian. I was no longer a blue chip player, but I was a blue collar player.
Yeah, and but at the end of the day, here it is. You guys had this huge success story, and like you said, Sports Illustrated, New York Times, USA Today. Connie Chung didn't come to my high school. She'd have to fly 7,000 miles. But the fact is, you guys had this great career. You get drafted out of a Division II school to go play in the NBA. Kind of unheard of. So
yeah, no doubt.
From a blue collar, and you're there, and you're with. I mean, you're telling me Akeem Olajuwon and World Be Free and some of the best players to ever lace it up, right? That was a very successful team that won 2 NBA championships right away. And here you are being grafted into this group. So the blue collar mindset is not one of you work in just anonymity and you get it done and you're a plumber, a painter, an electrician, or whatever it is. You can excel, and you've used this to translate it. And that's really the trick that I've seen and how you've done well. It's you've taken it to any world. You take pride in where you come from and who you are, but your identity is not what you do, but who you become as a result of the blue collar mindset. You became a great basketball player. Someone who's drafted that high in the NBA is, there's not many teams. That was phenomenal. You then translated that into real estate. And maybe you could talk about that, because I witnessed it firsthand. I came out to see you in action. We know each other 30 years. I knew you before you were married. Now you have 5 kids, and you and Julie have been married for, 24 years? Is it 25?
Yeah, 25 years, yeah.
So, I've known you years before you got married. I watched the blue-collar mentality show up in the white-collar world of real estate. Maybe you could speak to that for a moment.
Yeah, well, that's a great point, because it was a hard transition for me, because you think about it. Up to this point, work I knew was physical, and then sport is same physical. Sweating, and then I walk into a real estate office, and I was kind of knocked back on my heels. I was like, I was used to moving, sweating, and seeing the impact of my work. I was accustomed to a strict schedule, clearly defined duties, and then receiving massive feedback, whether from a job well done or a scoreboard, and breaking out a driveway, replacing it with a new one. Sense of satisfaction. Then in the real estate world, square peg in a round hole. It was a strange experience, desks and people sitting down to work, and it's like, what I witnessed? I witnessed people at work, but it didn't really seem like they were working. So many distractions and socializing, drama and gossip that, every office has one. I just wasn't accustomed to it. There was little to no accountability. The structure was missing. The routines was whatever you were doing that day. And it was foreign to me. And I remember my mom asking me after a week's worth of work on the job at selling real estate. She goes, "How's it going?" And I said, "It's kind of different, Mom." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, it's kind of like I have a job, but I kind of don't. It's kind of like I have a boss, but I kind of don't." And then I finished it off with saying, "It's kind of like I get paid, but it's kind of like I don't." And she goes, "Oh, that's
welcome to commissions."
Yeah, right. And the work itself, it was unstructured, it was intangible, and I never got that sense of accomplishment. But just like you, I was mentally fatigued at the end of the day. So I struggled through the first year in the business, but here's the deal: I wanted to fit in. So what do you think I did? I'm watching what everyone else was doing, and I started doing what they were doing.
Right.
I wanted to be accepted, and it just wasn't working for me.
I mean, so for me, Joe, I felt I had to almost reject my blue-collar upbringing to be a white-collar worker. These people were more educated, more sophisticated. And it takes you a while to figure out, hang on, this is an emperor's new clothes here. The emperor's actually butt naked. Yeah. And what I noticed is people weren't working that hard. They weren't actually getting that much done. And when I applied what I had learned from my father and grandfather in the painting business, that's when my real estate career took off. But it's, many people may have, you come from humble backgrounds or whatever else. You don't have to, you just have to translate. You don't have to negate. And I know that happened for you once you made the adjustment. You were gangbusters. Maybe you can just share with people. I know we weren't going to say you're talking a lot of real estate today, but there's a lot of people out there listening who are entrepreneurs, own a business, a lot of realtors for sure. Maybe you can describe, what you actually broke it down to So that it was like you were finishing cement every day. So it was like you could do a hard work, that the blue collar mindset could show up in your real estate career every day.
Yeah, I mean, I would do stuff where I had to make everything more visual. So thinking about this, Brian, my first year I did 9 transactions with a low average sale price. I would have been better off on food stamps than selling real estate. But I went from, and I told this story in the past where I came to a breaking point. It was like one of those defining moments. I was working with a buyer who was running me ragged. I had thought about getting out of the business prior, but this was kind of going to put me over. And then I just did a lot of contemplating, and then I had an epiphany. I came to the conclusion, amongst a bunch of other things, that I had forsaken my blue collar roots, and I had gotten away from that, thinking I was going to outgrow them and get into another world. And once I started to embrace the practices of the blue collar past, then bam, I went from 9 transactions to 21 transactions, 21 transactions a year to 32. 32 transactions a year to 61 transactions. Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to build a team. I added my sister, Terry. She was part of my team as an assistant. I went from 61 transactions to 121 transactions. And it grew all the way to the point where I was making over $1 million a year. Mm-hmm. So the blue collar mindset in real estate, or any type of commission sales, or any type of work where you get a bonus or whatever it might be, paid off big time, or will pay off big time. And maybe I'll share, I know you and I talked in the past, maybe I could share some of those tips closer to when a little bit later in the presentation.
Yeah, but for sure.
I would like to.
But I was thinking like you used to, when we used to talk, because we became accountability partners. We met in 1991 at the St. Francis Drake Hotel. We were in the top 30 realtors in the country, and asked to come to this conference. And it was all this highfalutin talk, and you and I met. And we linked up. We were brothers from a different mother. We connected. We had this blue-collar background, and there was no pretense. There was no pretense with it. And we had it up. We went to lunch, and I remember the next 3 days we were supposed to be in that conference. We're spending time together, and we brainstormed. And you would go, here's what I do. I roll up my sleeves every day. Yeah. I loosen the collar in my shirt. I work in a blue-collar part of town. And you're going, I'm going to make, 25 calls a day to my database. I'm going to write 5 personal notes a day. I'm going to add 5 new people to my database every day. And you created for yourself what we called at the time a personal business standard. But you basically had, with no accountability, with no boss looking over your shoulder, as an independent contractor who's paid on commission, you created for yourself, here's what a great day looks like. And you kind of like, okay, we're going to get this driveway broken up today. Next day, we're going to collect all the concrete and the rebar. Next day, we're going to, probably in the same day with your dad,
No excuses, get it done. Yeah. Brian, here's another element to that is like, you think about it, selling real estate, it's non-tangible, invisible type work. And though you can make a phone call, and you can make 5 of them, it didn't feel like you did, or I have nothing to show for it. And what I would do is I'd take a little index card, and I would do little hack marks on the index card. And I would do 25 a day. And I would send out notes, and I would do 5 notes a day, and then I'd go visit people and mark that who I visited. And I would keep that index card on a daily basis. I'd put it in a recipe card, so at the end of the week I can actually see what I did. It helped me stay more consistent and motivated, and know that I was building and creating something more than just trying to make a sale.
And I remember being at a conference with you with this guy, and he had the $5,000 suit and a pinky ring, and he was talking about it, and he goes, oh, low-tech Joe. Low-tech Joe. Kind of like, now, you had all the technology you needed, but you worked off cards and notes and this and any other because you wanted it to be visceral. You wanted to see it. And here's the thing. We find out later on that guy is in massive debt. Yeah. Everything's, the car is leased. The ring he was wearing was leased. He has the nice tan and the $5,000 suit, but he's got no money in the bank, in the States, in Texas, they say big hat, no cattle. In Ireland, we say fur coat, no knickers. Yeah. And it was, right?
Yeah, no doubt. No, you're hitting it right on the head. Because, you and I have talked about this in the past. I always, you're mad, we're all making money and it's growing. And you kind of follow, you and I were on the exact same path. Right. Same beliefs and same practices. And, our mothers even look the same. We think their sisters had this, So, but as I started to develop, earn more money selling real estate, we didn't go out and buy the Rolls Royce. Right. We didn't go buy the $5,000 suit. You know why? because we knew how hard it was to make that money.
Right.
And the thing is we had the principle, you want to put your money where it grows, not where it shows.
Yeah.
And that's when I started buying real estate. And I used the blue collar mindset. And you did the same, owning real estate. I was not afraid to replace a toilet, paint an apartment, though I wouldn't paint it as good as you, or change an outlet. And I took pride in the buildings, and is the blue. Like I knew what it took.
And that's been the payoff. I mean, look at today. I mean, we talk about this because people go, okay, we're in a world today that's kind of confused. At the time of this recording, right around my birthday here, we have a government that's given so much money to people, you can't get people to show up for work. We have people who are trying to fight for, a guaranteed wage because I think they view work as the enemy. And there's a lot of this thought that work is the enemy as opposed to work is what makes you. I mean, at this blue collar mindset, it's the making of you. It's principles you learn from your mentors, the people who you serve under. And they carry you for life. And the other part of it is it ends up in some nice thing. What I found is that a blue collar mindset in work and a blue collar mindset in investing ends up in a lot of green. That color changes. And there's a payoff here. And there's a payoff. And, let's be candid. You and I became multimillionaires from doing this stuff. And you're a Southside Chicago guy. You always say, oh, I'm doing well. I'm steady. How you doing, Joe? Steady. At the time, a steady with one assistant, you're one of the highest producing agents in the world. And I'm doing steady, I'm doing good, and I'm buying houses and so on and so forth. So maybe you can talk to the payoff a little bit because people listening to this, they need to know this really is a success formula for any walk of life.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Just imagine if anyone in the white collar world was commission based or, bonuses, if they adopted or readopted a blue collar mindset. The blue collar mindset, it pays off. You show up to work and you really do work. You walk away with a sense of accomplishment. The work is more rewarding. You have peace of mind. You never are without opportunity. And you just talked about it a little bit about our current economic state and stimulus packages and giving money away and what it does to people's soul. This is you're exactly the same way as me. Economic indicators. You're one of the best that I know that are predicting economic future. And you have your fingers. I think it's a blue collar approach you take, by the way, because you're belly to belly with people out there making things happen. And I look at interest rates. I look at unemployment. I look at new housing starts. That's all stuff that helps ensure our economic future. But there's one indicator that determines my financial destiny, and that's my blue collar mindset, and it's your blue collar mindset. Because you adopt the blue collar mindset, you take the blue collar mindset, bring it into a white collar world, you go from blue collar to white collar to no collar at all. and that's just an expression to say you work because you want to, not because you have to. You work for the love of work. You get to work. You don't have to work. And I mean, isn't that a beautiful position to be in? And it's not like we're, you and I have hung out and we've traveled the world together. It's like we're not hurting for much, and it's
right.
But I think what we both did is you kind of you did the work up front. You rearrange the work that's required and the payoff that comes as a result of it. And the blue collar work and the white collar world led both of us to where no collars at all, which is a healthy place to be, because then you're not motivated by money.
Sure.
You could always be pure in your thought.
You've built a vast real estate ownership for yourself. You have systems in that. You have it structured. That I visited, I think, all of your buildings. They're all in great shape. Your tenants are proud to be there. You're proud to own the buildings. The people are proud to work. And we talk about this thing, taking this sense of esteem and value in your work, and it's a sense of ownership. You have the ownership of the buildings. People have ownership when they live there, and the people who go work there now have that sense of ownership. You manage it. That blue-collar mindset, you're still connected to the hourly value of things. And that's why you run these things profitably. I think what's happened, Joe, in our culture today, and where I'm concerned for our younger people coming up, is the abdication of the blue-collar mindset, the elimination of, again, traditional mentorship, especially in this area. And people go, I go to, and I know so many people who spend $250,000 on a college education who make $50,000 a year, and the electrician is driving down the street and he's making 120, by the way.
Oh, no doubt.
You know, and then some. Try to find an electrician and many other people in the trades today. But what I see is people abdicate to tech. They abdicate to tech. It's considered the with it thing. It's considered the tech will do my customer service. The tech will do my marketing. The tech will handle this. The tech will handle that. And sometimes you need a little bit of get the fingers dirty. You need to get your hands in the dirt. You need to talk to your customers. You need to be in front of people. You need to connect with your employees. And what we've become is this mindset of outsourcing and so on and so forth. So one of the things, as you know, we're all about how-tos. We have mindset, motivation, and the methodologies of success. In our time that we have left here, I would love to give people some how-tos, and you're all about how-tos. How do we go about achieving the our mindset on a day-to-day basis? And I know you have some tips for people.
Okay, first and foremost, seek accountability. Seek accountability. See, in blue-collar work, this is interesting. The physical work itself serves as evidence for the work that was done or to be done. So, for example, my dad would drop us off in the morning and say, this driveway needs to be torn out. He'll be back in 2 hours. So we know that he can come back in 2 hours and actually see if we did our work or not. So it's accountability at a real intense level. Now, you look at white-collar work, there isn't that physical evidence. So you can have an agent or a salesperson. Did they make 5 calls or 10 calls or no calls at all? There's no way for you to really know, even to give yourself feedback. That's why I'm a big advocate of referral makers, CRM, where you it's like you're getting that feedback. You're looking at little pie charts and bars and like that. To me, that's the blue collar mindset. I gotta see my work. And I told you what I did with those index cards. It would give me consistency, motivation, and a sense of accomplishment.
Love it.
Next is establish a routine. Laying concrete up at 6, on the truck at 7, swinging the sledgehammer at 8. The tools laid out, the concrete broken out, hauled away by noon. Pouring the new concrete at 1, finishing up by 4. And then, little nuances each and every day. But I needed that. When I got into real estate, I was up at 6, not at the office, but I would exercise and read. I'd get in the office at the same time every day, 9 o'clock. And when I got there, I didn't check emails. I wanted to set up my day and line up all my calls I wanted to make and people I was going to go visit. Maybe I was showing houses at the time or listing property or contract presentations. The day was laid out. And of course, there's always little variations, but I had my routine established. If someone seeked accountability and they established a routine, they'd have the blue collar mindset. They're on their path.
Nice.
Next is just get her done. The whole idea of, just think about it. I was a scholarship athlete in college, getting paid to come play for the university. I eventually got drafted by the Houston Rockets. But my dad worked and we worked for him. So like we would finish work with my dad and we'd go, because I would go train. So I would lift weights or shoot or play in a game, work on some skills. And sometimes it's like the night got away on me and I'd go to bed sometimes at 10:30, 11 o'clock or 12. And you know what I found? 6 o'clock comes real early. But it was like, get on the truck. If you're not on the truck by 7, you're left behind. Wow. And like if I came to a job site and it's like, well, we got to tear out this driveway. And it's like, Dad, I'm tired. I'm sore. It's like he was having none of it. And again, right. Get her done. No excuses. And or sometimes I'd do the dirty work.
Right.
And my dad would say, well, if you're willing to do the dirty work, you can become filthy rich. And it's
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So it's always, just get her done. And you take that into the real estate business. It's not about, who's right or gossip. It's about getting it done. Are we getting?
You're willing to do the dirty work, you can be filthy rich. I love that.
Yeah.
That's no great. Doubt. What else you got?
Well, here's another one, and I think this is big, is just knowing what you're building or creating. Mm-hmm. Knowing what you're building or creating. And of course, you as a painter, I'm sure you show up to the job site and it's like, we got to paint this church or we're going to lay out some gold leaf. And it was very targeted, very visual. The work was very structured and you knew what you needed to do. But, I got into the real estate business. Like, well, what do I do? Answer the phone, check your email.
Right.
And I was like, I was drifting in this business. And then I just got back and I go, what moves the dial in this business? It's the calls. It's the notes. It's the go visiting. It's the relationship. It's the connecting. And I would come in and I'd have daily goals. And you talked about it earlier. Have that daily goal. How many calls am I going to make? How many notes am I going to do? And again, referral maker CRM that Buffini puts together to manage and direct when the sales is awesome. I think that's a must. And
So you had a picture though. You had a picture in mind though. One of the phrases you introduced me to years ago is most people aim for nothing and hit it with amazing accuracy. And when you know what you're building, that really is. The mind goes to work. Even when you're resting, your mind goes to work on creating that picture. And I loved it. I love the sacredness of the routines, how we set up the equipment, how we did the work, how we cleaned up after ourselves, how we then cleaned the equipment and put it away. You're only as good as your tools, my dad used to say. Yeah. And so, that knowing what you're building, I find that phenomenal. Give us another tip while we're here. You're on a roll.
Okay. Well, another one is be specific on prioritized tasks.
Okay.
So you think about it, blue collar work is very linear, logical. Mm-hmm. There's a natural sequence to the work. A roofer is not putting the roof on until the foundation is laid. Mm-hmm. There's a sequence. You're not painting walls until the job is prepped. We're not laying new concrete until the old is removed and the forms are put in. So there's a sequence to the work. And there's a specificity to go, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. It's a domino effect. Mm-hmm. And how many times you hear real estate people or just anyone in sales, they want to, what technology can I get? And, well, build a database first, shake someone's hand, smile. It increases your face value, just go talk to someone. Right. Gosh darn it, and you got to be specific. Okay, here's what I'm building a referral-based business. I want to close 100 transactions a year. I have so many people in my database. Do I have someone holding me accountable? Do I have the tools? Is my team structured the right way? And, Kevin would always say this. He said this last year at the sessions he was doing. He would say, if you want to be terrific, you have to be specific. Mm-hmm. So the more specificity that happens in the blue collar world, it needs to happen more with the blue collar mindset in the white collar world. Here's another one, Brian. Yeah. This is good. It's like you got to be specialized. Mm. In the blue collar world, the guy's always kid. What do you call a person in the trades who doesn't specialize in anything but good at everything? A handyman.
Right.
And a handyman is valuable and wonderful and noble, but it's just not the highest paid person in the trades. So when
that leads into the whole get rich in a niche, doesn't it? I mean,
it does.
Just dig down. And like you say, inside the trades, you'll have people who are painters and then they become a particular type of painters. You have people who are electricians. Okay, I just do commercial or I just do interior. I don't do landscape lighting. The more specialized you are in the blue collar world, the higher paid. And I really think that whole get rich in a niche is a key. Become the very best at it and then keep going deeper instead of wider, instead of being a generalist. Like you said, I love handyman, but when you really need the top level stuff, you typically don't call a handyman.
Yeah. You think about getting into the real estate business. I know I'm referring back to it because that's been my history. Mm-hmm. But the real estate industry is massive, commercial, industrial, residential, different markets, different products. And so when I got into the real estate business, I took my blue collar mindset, applied it, became specialized. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a residential real estate agent in the Midway Airport area, this specialized location. I wanted to get on the listing side. I work with buyers, but my goal, I wanted to create a listing, powerhouse. And as a result of that, I specialized and was highly compensated as a result of it. Mm-hmm. So specialization is huge. And maybe the last one, and I think this has impacted both of us, is just knowing your hourly worth.
Right.
When I got into real estate, one of my first commission checks was like $5,000, $732.36. And it was like, holy cow, how long I'd have to work with my dad to make that money?
Right.
And I valued it. And now, and I also, and you did this at Mastermind one year where you had everyone take their 1099 or what they thought they made for the year and estimated how many hours they worked in that year and divide the 1099 number by the number of hours worked to come up with an hourly wage for a real estate agent. Mm-hmm. And people were floored.
Yeah.
It's like, I make $200 an hour. Well, maybe I need to hire an assistant and build a team.
Yeah,
maybe
stop
I need to
doing
learn.
the $20 or $15 an hour work.
You would always say, if you don't have an assistant, then you are one.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like when you realize your hourly value, and you understand the dollar, and you understand your value and what your impact is and what role you should play, you become more of a rainmaker in the process.
Well, I look, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, and I know how I've had you as a guest at many events where you talked about the financial side, the South Side money, and raising family and all that. And you're a great success. You're a credit to your dad, who was a great success. I've been at so many family functions for the Niego family, and here's a cement finisher from the South Side of Chicago with a rich, deep legacy where his children and grandchildren know of him on a regular basis. He was a giant of a man. One of the regrets in my life, I never got to meet him before he passed. But I see it lived on in you, and now I see you passing those mindsets on, and your children are attending some of the finest universities in the country, but they too have this blue-collar mindset, and the same for my kids. I have a daughter in dressage, the most, 1%er sport on the planet, but she's a grinder, and she's up at dawn and down at dusk. She's the fittest. She's the most prepared. She works harder. She's had more setbacks, and she grinds through. And I have 6 kids that have that same blue-collar mindset. So it's great for yourself. It's great for your livelihood. It's great for your success, but it's also great for your legacy. This stuff is real. And as we close up here today, I would just love you to kind of put a ribbon on all this, this whole blue-collar mindset. I think it's so important. I know that people have been blessed with what they've heard here today, but maybe you could put a ribbon on the whole thing for us, Joe.
Well, maybe, Brian, when I present, many times I'll draw on the iBoard, but I'm going to bring back something out of the quiver that I used when I was early in my real estate career as a way to get a sense of accomplishment and feeling like I'm getting better. And it's a poem, and it's called The Builder or Wrecker. And it has a lot of blue collar roots, and I don't think there's anything you can build greater than building up another person, which you do wonderfully. My hat's off to you. So the poem goes like this. I saw them tearing a building down, a gang of men in this busy town. With a ho-heave-ho and a hearty yell, they swang a beam and the side wall fell. I asked the foreman, are these men skilled like the ones you'd hire if you had to build? He said with a laugh, no indeed. Common labor is all I need. I can easily wreck in a day or two what it's taken a builder 10 years to do. And I thought to myself as I went my way, which of these roles have I tried to play? Am I a builder who builds with care, measuring life with rule and square? Am I shaping my deeds to a well-made plan, carefully doing the best I can? Or am I the wrecker who walks the town, content with the labor of tearing down?
And it is labor. I would say this stuff resonates with me. It's a deep resonance. It brings me back to my parents, my grandparents, the workers. I think of Jimmy Fitzpatrick and Tommy White and all the lads who were on the job site who I was mentored underneath and who helped me become a huge success in many other areas and things they had no idea about, real estate or coaching companies or broadcasting or all the things that I've gone on to do. These blue-collar mindsets, like you said, they can help you earn a living and build a great life as a blue-collar worker. You can apply these things in the white-collar world and end up with no collar. And you've done it well, my friend. You've done your father proud. That brass stamp is on a lot of concrete, but that brass stamp you wear on your heart, you've given it to a lot of people. And I think we've given people a lot to think about today, and this has really been beautiful. I know there's a ton more. I know there's lots of other opportunities to hear more about this, and I'm looking forward to exploring those. I thank you for being my friend. I thank you for being the man that you are, someone I admire greatly. I thank you for all these principles today, and I thank you for blessing our audience and really putting the work in to bless our audience. So I thank you for it. And I'm going to pass it off to my mom, who could be your mom, who loves you like you are, son. And we'll send her on today. Talk about blue collar. Therese Buffini knows about it. And she's going to finish us off today with the Irish blessing. Thanks for being a guest on the show, Joe. It's been a treat.
Thank you, Brian.
Over to you, Mom.
May the road rise up to meet you, and may the wind always be at your back. May the rain fall soft upon your fields, and the sun shine warm upon your face. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand. See you next time.